Salve omnes, welcome to this video lesson on section 22 of Fabulae Faciles. We're on the second labor of Hercules, the Lernaean Hydra. All right, Hydra, by the way, hydra is a water snake in Greek. That's what the word means. But of course, the hydra, the monster, the Hydra, is a little bit more than just a water snake. It is a snaky sort of a beast that lives in a swamp. It has many heads, however. It is very, very large, and it has fatal poison. And also, this Hydra, when you chop off one of its heads, either one more grows back, or perhaps in some versions of the story, even maybe two heads grow back, right? So it gets even worse. But the point is, you can't just chop off its heads to be done with it. All right, Paulo post, a little bit afterwards, a little bit later. Iusus est, he was ordered, ab Eurysteo, by Eurystheus, hydram nicare, to kill the Hydra. Hoc autem monstrum erat, this, moreover, was a monster, qui novem erant capita, for whom there were 9 heads. Now, cui here is the dative of possession, so it's almost as if we said who had 9 heads, right? This idiom in Latin is very similar in function to that in English. So to whom there were 9 heads, meaning who had 9 heads. And again, different versions of the myth might have different numbers of heads. The exact numbers are not important because, again, the heads grow back. Another thing that you often see in this myth is that one of the heads is an immortal head. So even if you chop it off, it doesn't die. All right, on we go. Hercules igitur, Hercules therefore, cum amico Iolao profectus est. Set out, profectus est, that's from proficiscor, proficisci, profectus sum, to go forth, to set out, with his friend Iolaus. Now, Iolaus, or it's Iolaus in the nominative. This guy here is called his friend, but this is actually his nephew. So this would be the son of his brother Iphicles, right? All right, so he set out with his friend or his nephew Iolaus ad Paludim, Lernaeam, to the Lernaean swamp, in qua hydra habitabat, in which the Hydra lived. Mox monstrum invenit, soon he found the monster. Invenit is a synonym, so invenio, invenire, this is a synonym for reperio, reperire, 2 verbs for find or discover in Latin. So soon he found the monster. And if you want, you can see it's made from in and venit, so he came upon the monster. Et quamquam res erat magni periculi, and although the matter, the situation, res, was of great danger, magni periculi, that's a genitive of description there. Columeus sinistra prehendit, he grabbed its neck with his left hand, sinistra. Tum dextra, then with his right, capita novem obscidere coipit, he began, coipit, to cut off the 9 heads. So I'm almost imagining here in the way this story is told that the thing is not particularly large and that he's grabbed around sort of the base of all the necks and then he's chopping off the heads above that. Although that's, usually it's viewed as a little bit larger than this. All right. Quotiens, as often as, tamen, nevertheless, hoc fecerat, he had done this, meaning as often as he had chopped off the heads, nova capita exoriebantur, new heads were rising up, were sprouting up. Diu frustra laborabat. Diu, the opposite of paulatim. Paulatim for a little time, diu for a long time. For a long time, frustra, in vain, laborabat, He labored, he toiled. So he kept trying to cut off the heads, and they kept growing back, and it's just all frustra in vain. Tandem, at last, hoc conatu destitit. He desisted or quit from this attempt, this effort, hoc conatu. That would be an ablative of separation there, if you stop from a thing or you keep away from a thing or whatever. So at last he desisted from this attempt, hoc conatu. Dende, then, arbore succidere et ignem accendere constituit. He decided to cut down trees, succidere arbores, and to kindle a fire, or to start a fire, we could say, ignem accendere. Hoc celeriter fecit, this he did quickly, et postquam ligna ignem comprehenderunt, and after the pieces of wood, ligna, caught fire, comprehenderunt ignem. So this is an idiom rather like in English, caught fire, right? It means they suddenly became flaming, right? You get this with comprehenderunt, or rather comprehendo, comprehendere. You can also get it with capio, capere, I believe, to take flames, or take two flames, as we might say in English, to catch fire. All right, so, and after the wood, the pieces of wood, ligna, caught fire, face ardente, with a burning torch. Fox, facus, one of the words for torch in Latin. Tida is another one. Tida is particularly a pine wood torch. So face ardente, with a burning torch. Cola adusit, he burned its necks. Unde capita exorebantur, from which the heads were arising. Nec tamen, nor nevertheless, sine magno labore haec fecit, nor nevertheless, without great labor, sine magno labore, did he do these things, haec fecit. Venet enim, for he came, or there came, rather, auxilio hydrae, to the help of the hydra, concer inganes, a huge crab. Now let me just reorder that to make this more clearly phrased. For a huge crab came to the help of the hydra. All right, and then this qui clause is going to describe the crab. Qui dum Hercules capita obscidit crura eius mordebat. A crab who, while Hercules was cutting off, obscidit, the heads, capita, kept on biting, or was continually biting. Notice mordebat is imperfect, showing continual action. Kept on biting his legs, crura eius, that is, Hercules' legs. Postquam monstrum tale modo interfecit, after the monster was, or after he killed the monster in such a way, sagittas suas sanguine eius imbuit, he dipped or dyed his arrows, imbuit. This has to do with placing into liquid, right? So he dipped his arrows in its blood, sanguine eius. The English verb imbue, which is usually used metaphorically rather than physically, comes from this verb in Latin. So he dipped his arrows in its blood, itaque mortiferas redidit, and so he made them, mortiferas means death-bringing, we might say just fatal or lethal. Okay, so I will say here, this is not the best version of this myth that I have heard. It's a little bit unclearly stated. So I have said that he was originally told by the oracle to commit 10 labors for the king, Eurystheus, and he ends up doing 12. Well, why? Well, because 2 of them are not counted. So this is the first one that's not counted. Why is it not counted? Well, it's not counted because he got help. He got help from his nephew, Iolaus, And it's not clearly laid out in this version, but typically, as he's fighting the beast, he's easily able to chop off heads. And usually he's using a sword, right? That's not explained here, but in a lot of versions of this, he has a sword and he's chopping off the heads, and all's fine and dandy. But every time he chops them off, they grow back, right? So then he shouts out to his cousin, or not his cousin, rather his nephew, Iolaus, to burn them. So Iolaus gets the torch ready. And I know in this, it's like he burns a whole forest down. It's really weird. But anyhow, Iolaus gets a torch and he burns the stumps of the neck just as Hercules cuts off the head. So cuts off a head, burn the neck. Cuts off a head, burns the neck. And so with that help, he's able to do it. I should also say, I mentioned that one of the heads is immortal in a lot of versions of this tale. So that one doesn't die when it gets cut off. So what does he do? Hercules takes a giant boulder and he just throws the giant boulder on top of the thing. So yeah, it's alive, but as long as nobody moves the boulder, it's not going to hurt anyone anymore. That's how he takes care of that. And then, of course, there's the crab, Conker. Conker, that's where we get the zodiac sign of Cancer, a constellation of the crab in the sky. According to myth, Hera put the crab, Conker, in the sky to reward it for helping fight against Hercules, because, of course, she doesn't like Hercules very much. So then also, this story doesn't tell until the end that, there's something about the Hydra's blood. Well, it was a very, very poisonous monster, right? Essentially, according to the myth, if you got bit by it, the poison would kill you. It was always lethal, right? So that's why he dipped his arrows in the blood, and that's going to come back to haunt him later. In many stories, he does use the arrows, the poison arrows, to kill people or things, but if you have arrows that are definitely going to kill people whenever they hit them, that's dangerous because they might hit somebody accidentally, right? So that's going to come back to haunt him later. Let's see, anything else I need to say here? So this is the first of the labors that doesn't count. Why does it not count? Because Iolaus helped him. I should note there were two on the Hydra side too, right? The Hydra and the crab. There is a famous Greek saying that essentially translates to not even Hercules against two. So he's against two monsters in this, Hydra and Conker, the crab. And because of that, he needed help, right? Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this section, and I hope that with my explication you understand a little bit more clearly about some of the variations of this myth that aren't as clearly laid out in this version. Volete omnes usque